Welcome to In Sequence, a comics podcast for everyone. I'm Jillian, and these are your panelists.
Hey, I'm Matt.
I'm Robin.
And I'm Scout.
And today we are discussing probably, I think, the longest amount of content that we've read to date.
Yeah, baby!
We are discussing volumes 1 through 9 of the manga series Witch Hat Atelier.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
This was one of the first ones that we had on our list when we were talking about the show.
Yeah, this is every time I am I need to recommend something to someone, my mind is immediately I have to talk about this with you because I will not shut up. But yeah, so I do believe Scout and I have been keeping up with it for the past couple years, I would say.
Yeah, I picked it up. You picked it up before me. I picked it up just about a little over a year ago and have been keeping up since then.
I actually got into it because of one of my friends who, as I mentioned before we were actually recording, was a group order manager for merch from Japan and is the reason I have all of the goodies that I have.
Shout out for the goodies and shout out for the recommendation.
But Robin and Matt, this was your guys' first time with Witch Hat, so what was your guys' kind of vibe going into it beforehand, or what did you know, maybe?
You want to go, Robin?
Sure. So I had actually read the first volume of it at some point in the past. Don't really remember where I heard of it, to be honest, or why I stopped after that point. Probably just had other shit to do. So my impression of it was already pretty positive going in. The things that I mostly remembered were the art is unbelievably gorgeous, and I really liked, at least in those first couple of issues, the things that it was saying about the nature of magic and what it means to practice it, and the very clear connections it was making between magic and art or any sort of thing that a person can shape their life around in that way. So I had, and also I'd heard a bunch of, I'd heard lots of praise for it. So I had very high hopes, I would say.
Yeah, I started reading Witch Hat around the time that we started the show, but not necessarily because of the show. I had caught up with Frieren and I had caught up with Blue Period. And I was looking for something, and it has been recommended so much just by everyone that I was I'm gonna pick this up. And also, every time I'm at the bookstore or the comic shop or something, it just looks so pretty on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I was I think that I should try that. And I bought it. I bought the first volume randomly several months before I read it. The committing to reading this much was definitely for the show. And I don't know, I had a great time. I really didn't know what to expect going in. I thought it was honestly, my impressions were it felt a little saccharine from the outside for my taste. And I don't know, it really kind of upset that impression. And also, I really enjoyed my time reading it.
Yay.
Now that I think about it, I think I found this after, I'm trying to remember, and I'm pretty sure I picked it up after watching Kiki's Delivery Service a couple of years ago, or rewatching it rather. And I was just I'm so taken by the way that story conflates art and magic and all of those things. And I think that I was just very much in the mood for that kind of thing. And I heard those comparisons. So I'm pretty sure that's where I found it, or why I sought it out anyway.
That makes sense.
Really similar for me in Blue Period, with Blue Period being a book that is all about art and why we make art. That I was really hungry for that coming into Witch Hat.
That's a really that's a parallel that I hadn't thought of, but absolutely, you're so right. Kiki's Delivery Service has a lot of similar themes and a lot of similar concepts going on. I love that movie. The movie's good.
I do too. Good. Makes me cry every time.
Me too.
And I love this manga too.
Also made me cry.
God.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, just for as general impressions, I was thinking about this last night. This is the best thing I've read for the show so far, by a pretty wide margin.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm assuming everyone here really is into this. No one's gonna come out with a hot take that it actually sucks. Okay.
I fucking hate it, dude. I spent a couple $100 on merch and I fucking hate this goddamn manga.
With the brush buddy sticking out of your shirt, you're gonna be actually.
This sucks, dude.
But no, yeah, I'm a big fan. Enjoyed it a lot. Enjoyed it a lot, even more on my second read. And not just because of like a lot of stuff that is being broadcast about later stuff in these earlier chapters. There's a lot of that, but even just like caught a lot more of stuff that really interested me this time. Took in the story and the themes a little bit more deeply this time versus my first time through, when I was just like so excited to see everything that, you know, you get so into just like what's going to happen next that you don't give your brain as much time to really sit and like marinate in the themes. And so I was able to do that this time, and I'm really having a good time.
Yeah, I think this was my third go through for it, and I feel like every time I read it, I like focus on a different element of things. And this time I was reading it specifically to take notes. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I have to like pick out specific things that I want to talk about. But yeah, I think that tracks with me as well. So let's get into the front matter, which Hat Atelier is written and illustrated by Shirahama Kamome. The English translation is done by Stephen Kohler with the lettering by Liz Blakesley. It began serialization in Kodansha's Seinen, which is a young adult genre of manga magazine, in July 2016, and then it moved to digital only in 2022 when the physical printing of that magazine stopped. Chapters are published monthly, and the English translations come out a week after the original chapters in Japanese. It is currently still in progress. We read to chapter 50 or through chapter 51. The most recent chapter as of recording was chapter 90, but I believe chapter 91 is coming out probably within the next week or so. There is a spin-off titled Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen, which is written and illustrated by Hiromi Sato, which basically takes the characters and is like, hey, what if they were just having a good time and cooking?
Oh, wait, that sounds amazing.
It's
I love
delightful.
I want to read that so bad.
Those have all been published in physical volumes as well and translated. By July 2024, the series had over 5.5 million physical volumes in circulation. It won the Harvey Award for Best Manga in both 2020 and 2025. It won the 2020 Eisner Award for Best U.S. Edition of International Media from Asia, and has received numerous other awards in different countries. Notably, France seems to be like super into Witch Hat.
That tracks.
Yeah.
That's fun. I was seeing, when I was looking up pronunciations, one of the things I found was a thread where a bunch of French readers were like, here is what it is in the French edition. I was like, oh, I guess, damn. I guess the French edition is real big.
Shirahama cites Lord of the Rings, shoujo fantasy manga, classic children's books, and 14th and 16th century Renaissance art as her primary inspirations for the series.
Hell yeah.
Most of the art for the books is done traditionally using wooden ink pens and other tools, and then scanned and kind of polished up digitally. She said it's because she likes the analog tools more, and also is not particularly competent with the digital ones.
I was going to ask if you had anything about the medium, because I was fairly certain that it was traditionally done just like from the line quality. It looks like scanned traditional art.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure what she was using. It looked almost like micron pen with like the particular sort of different depths and stuff. I don't know what a wooden ink pen is. I'm so fascinated.
Yeah, I don't either, but I read that in this Q&A article from one of her convention appearances, and I was like, that is so like interesting, because that is basically what they use in
I was going to say
is wooden ink pens.
Yeah,
that makes so much sense for a book that is like, there are pages of this comic that are about the way in which different characters hold pens, so it makes a lot of sense that she would be very concerned with like the physical medium.
Yeah, there is an anime adaptation that was announced in 2022. It was originally going to air this year, but they delayed it so that they could give animators more time to kind of make it live up to the art of the manga.
That's so cool, though.
That's a fucking tall order,
That's such a good reason to delay.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
It is set to air in 2026.
Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to have to be animating the Witch Hat Atelier?
Like, that's the thing.
Oh my God, seriously.
I think I started it around when they announced that there would be an anime. And I was like, as I was reading, I'm like, how are you going to do this? And then I watched the trailer when it came out, and I was like, okay, they're going to do this. Like, it's still going to look good. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get into a brief plot summary before we get into our notes are very long. So.
Yeah. I just want to say to the listener, I have had a really busy couple days, and so I was going to go back through all the books that I read and drop some notes. And then I looked at our notes document and said, I'm fine. I don't need to do that.
They got it covered in there.
And this is me holding back.
Yeah.
Same, honestly. I have more in my personal notes doc.
Witch Hat Atelier is the story of a young girl named Coco who has been fascinated by magic ever since she was a girl and bought a book about it at a festival. When a witch named Qifrey visits her mother's shop, Coco discovers the secret that witches have been keeping from the world. Magic is not inherent, but rather drawn. Coco decides to try drawing some of the symbols from the book, but one of them causes her home, and more importantly her mother, to turn into stone. It is only thanks to Qifrey that she is rescued from the same fate. She accepts his offer of tutelage so that she might learn how to reverse the spell, but is unaware that Qifrey's offer may not be entirely selfless. While training with him, she meets his other students, Agate, Riche, and Tessia, and the contraption maker who shares the atelier with them all, Olruggio. As she trains, Coco learns that the world of magic holds its own dark secrets. Forbidden magic, an order of witches known as the Brim Hats, the Knights Moralis, and rules meant to keep the practice of magic locked away from the common folk. Most concerningly, the Brim Hats seem to have taken a strong interest in Coco. Their actions seek to push the girl to break the rules of the world she's been reluctantly accepted into, preying on her innocence and kind heart. This episode's going to cover the first 9 volumes through the end of chapter 51. We will be spoiling things, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and generally on any episode of this show, we're just going to go right into spoilers. So,
so
if this is your first episode, no, that's what we do.
Just go read 9 volumes and come back, and it'll be fun.
Just do it real quick.
Before we kind of get into the rest of it, just kind of something that I didn't really feel like I wanted to put in the front matter, but I wanted to mention in the proper discussion, is I just wanted to mention Shirahama's social media online presence, and specifically like how it's related to Witch Hat. She is like actually very present on social media, which I feel like is not particularly common for a lot of mangaka, or at least most of them don't like engage with the fan base to the level that I feel like she does.
Yeah.
I know Paru Itagaki kind of has a TikTok where she, does all of her, like, she does a bunch of sketches and stuff, but Shirahama specifically, like, goes out of her way to engage with fan art and cosplay and all sorts of things. Like, she announced on one of her, I think it was on Twitter, like, she said, hey, instead of using this tag, why don't we use this one for all of the fan stuff so that I can, like, make sure that I'm seeing your things.
That's
really sweet.
So she's very, like, I think there was a month, this is all before Twitter went to shit, but there was like a month where she was like, I just want to see everybody's Witch Hat Atelier OCs this month. Like, use this tag, let me see them, let me retweet them.
I love that.
Which I think is just a really nice thing for a book about creativity to kind of, she's very open about like enjoying the fan art. Back in the day when you could see what people liked on Twitter, she was always liking ship art.
Hell yeah, she's a real one.
And like, she would never repost the saucy stuff, but she was liking the saucy fan art. It was great. Love her. She's great. She's also been super openly in support of LGBTQ rights in Japan. She still keeps her little rainbow flag up in her name. She is like very vocal in that like particular political sphere. And one of the interviews that I kind of referenced for some of this material mentions that she was asked during a Q&A about the level of diversity which is featured in the series concerning race, sexual orientation, disability, and how much was intentional. And she said that she sees that kind of diversity as a very natural thing. And since she saw a lot of it in the work she grew up on as a child, it was something that she wanted to see reflected in her own, which I think is great. Yeah. That is not the way that a lot of people will think about things.
Yeah.
And I think as with literally any part of this manga, all of that, as far as like the diversity and stuff, at least from, I suppose I'm looking at it sort of superficially. I'm not like digging deep into this representation or that representation here, but it all feels very like considered, and none of it just feels tacked on or anything. Like it feels like the world feels very full, it feels very real, and it feels very natural, and all of the designs, etc., seem very thoughtful and very like realistic, etc. You see a lot of bad Black caricature in manga. I think it's been getting better in some recent stuff, but it's still out there, and you're often going to see it. And the Black characters that are featured in this manga do not look like that at all. And I want to point that out specifically too.
Yeah. On that, like the sort of diversity and representation stuff, I was like so struck by how hard this goes in on like disability later on in the chapters we read. And like there are like long sections of this manga where like the witches talk about like, how do we use magic for accessibility purposes? And that's just like, it's just so interesting to see. It kind of arises very naturally out of what the world is, right? Like you have established in the rules of this world that you can't use magic on the human body no matter what, but you can make devices to help it. And I think that's so interesting. Like that very naturally, I think, leads to questions of like, well, what does that mean for people with disabilities, people who might want something to work differently about their own bodies? And the answer is we don't change those people. We change the world so that they are able to exist in it in like the way that anyone else is. And I think that is like such a smart take. Like, I think it would be so easy to take the temptation of being like, oh, we quote unquote fix them, which obviously sends the idea that they're like the disability is something to be like eliminated as opposed to accommodated. And so I just think it's so smart the way that it approaches things like that. Like it's so clear. Again, like Shirahama is a real one. Like she has thought so clearly about the implications of all of these things that are going into the book. And I just really love that about all of these books that we read.
There's that whole extended section about how they're talking about like witches doing basically like mandatory community service to like fix roads so that people can pass them, like pass areas. Like it's really cool. I think, I mean, there's so many things that I feel like we're going to talk about, but the one that I immediately, like a moment that really struck me is, I think it's in like volume 7 or 8 when they kind of go to like the underwater castle and we meet the like nurse lady for the first time. I hadn't really considered the implication of medicine not being able to use magic. And it felt really negligent, I think is the word I want to use. Like it felt a moment where I was like, the rules, and obviously there's plenty of these, it's kind of what the book's about, but the rules in this particular situation were making things worse for people.
Yes. Yeah, because specifically, I think what was really striking to me about that was people who do medicine can't use magic, and people who use magic can't do medicine.
Yes.
You cannot be a doctor and a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That is just like a particular time where that I don't know, where that like stuck out to me, and it's just like this little moment
for sure.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to say about like the accommodations and stuff that I think is really good is the way that we both do see the way that magic does genuinely work for accommodations in a lot of instances, and also the ways in which the technology is not perfect, and also like certain things have not been thought of because like not all of these devices are created by like disabled witches, there is also stuff missing here where they are thinking about like, oh, we did create this thing that is a mobility aid, like they have these walking chairs they call seal chairs, which are sort of the wheelchair equivalent. And we see one of those that I think is probably fancier than one that we see later that's very mobile and stuff. But even that one, we find out like, oh yeah, but it's too big, and there's a lot of corridors in this big underwater castle that the seal chair cannot fit through. And so this wizard has had to, or this witch, excuse me, wizard? How dare I? How dare you? This witch has found like sort of an alternate forms of transportation around the castle because the chair is not accommodated by the building. But then one of our characters also finds a way to accommodate the physical chair through the building in an interesting way. And then we have like the chair that is, you know, prepared for the boy that cannot pay for it, that is clearly not as sort of advanced of a chair and can really struggle with getting around in a lot of instances. And
I think specifically it's like on more like rocky terrain. He's like, I can't like fucking walk on the ground because it's to
the cobbles and stuff. Yeah, the cobblestone and like getting up and down stairs and stuff, like actually traversing through the common world, you know, more even than like we have Beldarut, who is mostly existing in a castle that has, you know, stone floors, etc., you know, that are...
And a billion witches.
And also Beldarut can become smoke and fly around.
Yeah. That does help, yeah.
I mean, I guess getting into it before I get into some of these other, like, more detailed things, we all mentioned just the art is fucking fantastic, you guys. I don't have too many, like, exciting things to say about it. I just, every single time I look at these pages, I'm just like, damn.
It's truly, I open up the first page of the first volume and I'm already like, come on, man. Are you kidding me with this?
It's truly, when you said these chapters come out monthly, I was like, no, they can't. There's no way a human, like, it takes a month to do these.
She takes a lot of breaks too. Like she's definitely, I feel like someone, like, there are definitely times where it's like, okay, it's been like 3 months without a chapter. That's fine. I'm like, girl,
Shirahama says, please.
Do your thing.
Please, do your thing.
It is like the level of detail, I think, for a manga. And like, this is not something you see in a lot of other mangas, this kind of level of detail in paneling.
Like, so many of these chapters begin with these like huge, like gorgeous, detailed, like pieces that are like the
chapter illustrations.
They're not like manga panel level detail, right? They are like serious full works of art, right?
Yeah, they're like very Art Nouveau, a lot of them.
They're also often like putting the characters in a different context, which is really fun. Like, there's a lot of symbolism in them, but there's also this isn't in a chapter that we covered today, but there's one in like a little bit later, I think it's like chapter 60 or something, that has 5 characters just looking so immaculate in their fits and sort of posing in these picture frames. And I saw that, I was like, this is like, I've opened a fashion magazine, you know? And this is the center cut spread for the fashion magazine.
Yeah. There are some of those will show specifically Coco wearing, or it's not even always in those opening illustrations, but often throughout the book, you'll see an image of Coco in sort of a garb that would be more closely associated with the brimmed caps, like the sort of...
Yes.
Oh my God. Every
Coco's dark fits are so good.
Every time I see one, I'm like, Coco, maybe you should actually go talk to those guys because they clearly have something figured out.
Every piece of brim hat Coco art makes me feral. So good.
Unfortunately, the brimmed caps,
they do eat.
The fits are immaculate.
There's one that has just kind of recently come up in like very recent chapters who serves so much cunt. Like, it is unbelievable the fit that this person has. But like, every single one of them just has these immaculate designs. And it's like, yeah, these designs are really cool. And
I get the appeal.
All of the different Coco ones are crazy.
They're so good.
Who is the witch that after the test like runs off to protect Ayuini?
Elira?
Elira.
Yeah, Elira.
Yeah, by far, like, my favorite of the good witches.
Great. Yeah, like, her hair is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I love how her hair almost looks like a brim. It's very fair.
Her hair looks like a brim.
Sorry, you just said serving cunt, and that's who I thought of.
No, she does serve cunt.
She is. She's so... related to that arc, I continue to be obsessed. It's not like the most fashionable thing in the world, I guess, but I'm obsessed with the scale wolf transformation cloaks with the scales on it. Just the way Shirahama draws those scales and has to do it for so long.
I know.
Yeah.
And they're so consistent. They look incredible, but I also look at that and I'm like, this would be awful. This would be horrendous, actually, to draw consistently like this over chapters and chapters, and like 7 characters are wearing them.
Yeah. And it's traditional.
If you weren't the person who's like, I'm a sicko and I want to draw this, you know?
Yeah. I just can't believe that she's managing to do that in like a non-digital format.
I know. Mm-hmm.
I also, that whole sequence, just the scenes where she shows like the scale wolves like sloughing off their scales by brushing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the visualization of that.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. I love the scale wolves. Unsurprising.
Yeah. Unsurprising, the scale wolves rule.
Yeah. And also for me, who was on DeviantArt in 2012, like, of course I love the weird wolves.
Yeah. I found the images of these brim hat Coco designs, and there's one that's just like this incredibly frilly dress with a like super detailed swirl pattern on both the hat and the dress. On that one, like, and then there's also another one that makes me crazy, which is I don't remember which volume this one was in. It's at the end of that Scale Wolf art. There is a panel
with all the pleating
with a parallel of Qifrey walking behind Coco, and then upside down, shrouded in darkness, is Coco in a brim hat with an incredibly like luscious dress and long cloak, being followed by Egwene, who is the brim hat witch that sold her the book at the very beginning, and is kind of like trying to get her to turn to the dark side.
It calls her the child of hope.
Yeah, which is interesting. Do we want to go through the plot a little bit to explain what that, just since we mentioned what that was, just in case people haven't been following along with us?
Yeah.
Specifically, the brim hats kind of seem to follow a witch named Egwene, not his real name. That's just what they call him, apparently.
Oh.
I think that's mentioned in one of them. They're just like, they don't really show their faces to each other.
Oh yeah, Sassaran, I think, says something about that.
Yeah, Sassaran says something about that. So the brimmed hats are witches who believe in using forbidden magic, and forbidden magic specifically is magic that affects the body, which is kind of why there's that magic and medicine can't go hand in hand thing. There is the big moment that kind of introduces them as Coco's antagonists is an arc where they are taking a test where they have to wear these cloaks and pretend to be wolves in order to guide a bunch of penguins through an ancient curse-twisted pathway cave kind of thing.
Actually, they're actually pretending to be mermaids.
They're pretending to be penguins, yeah.
They're pretending to be penguins, but they have to wear the wolf cloaks to do this.
Yes, to kind of change their shape. The brim hats show up, they split up the characters, kind of mess around with them, and take one of the other folks who is taking the test, Uni, a young boy whose mentor sucks shit.
Oh my god.
Fuck him.
His mentor is the worst. This is like the 5th time Uni's taken the test, and they take Uni and they inscribe forbidden magic on his skin and basically turn him into a scale wolf. They make him merge with the cloak, and he becomes a wolf.
And he looks cool as hell.
He looks cool as hell.
He looks really cool.
But
he's a black wolf too.
The shitty thing is, it's bad because even though he is the victim in this situation, if he were to be turned in to the Knights Moralis, which is basically like the enactors of law and the rules, and they kind of just make sure that rule breakers get their due punishment.
They reinforce the principles.
Yeah.
Which cops?
They're basically cops. if he were to be caught having the forbidden magic inscribed on his skin, even though it was not his fault, he would have his memory erased and he would no longer be a witch.
Memory erasure, the only thing that they allow, the only magic that they allow to be done on the body, because to them it is that important that these things be forgotten, you know?
So that is kind of the moment where they're like, is there any way for us to undo this? Yes, but to do that, you also have to use forbidden magic to like kind of undo the spell and things like that. So that is kind of the first moment of them being like, ooh, look at this thing that we did. Don't you want to save him? Don't you want to do what's right and save your friend? Well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to break the rules. So this is kind of that first moment of them kind of poking at Coco and being like, hey, you know, if you don't kind of do the things that the Knights Moralis don't want you to do, if you don't do this stuff, you're not going to be able to save anyone. Specifically, all of it kind of going back to she accidentally used forbidden magic on her mom and she wants to save her mom. So she's kind of struggling with this. Well, if I'm going to save my mom, I have to use forbidden magic or I have to find some other way. And that is kind of the main crux of this Brim Hat versus Coco and the girls conflict.
Yeah, I mean, this like Knights Moralis problem starts at the very beginning of the story, right? Where like there's another sort of rule is that like regular folks are not allowed to know how magic is done. And the fact that she is brought into the fold by, you know, Qifrey is like that's not normal. And basically her existence as a witch is threatened by the Knights Moralis pretty constantly throughout the story. And they threaten to wipe her memory at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, every once in a while one of them shows up and is like, all right, time to wipe your memory.
Okay, it's time. You're done.
Time to get it in. Time to go.
To break down that even a bit more to basics, because I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, is the way that Coco is brought into this is she's sold a book of forbidden magic, which she doesn't realize is forbidden magic, turns her home to stone. And that comes about because like she lives with her mother, who's a dressmaker, and Qifrey comes to visit where, you know, the home where they live. And Coco manages to sneak around and see Qifrey drawing magic, because in this world, it's like you draw these seals that's how magic works. They tell everyone that you have to be born with it. You actually don't. Anyone could do magic if they knew how to draw this. And Coco discovers that secret and is allowed to continue, which is like normally a secret that would get your mind erased for knowing it. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to talk a bit about that idea of there's sort of two interesting things there, which is like thinking about keeping this secret from people so that the world doesn't go to shit, but also preventing good things from possibly happening because of it. And also just the idea of drawing of art as magic. I think those are both worth like diving into a bit before we go more into like specifics.
Well, and that's why I wanted us to read to volume 9, because I feel like that's where it becomes like it is very clearly set up as like who gets to decide these things. It's shown a lot throughout, but I feel like it really comes to a head in volume 9. But yeah, I think that it is such a difficult like concept in there, because they showed the in the Scale Wolf arc, they showed the old kingdom of Romanon where nobody had to keep magic a secret. Everybody could know it and things were great. And then some people started, you know, using it for bad reasons, and that's the reason why they're like, no, we can't let like everybody do this. But at the same time, like, who are you to decide like who is worth learning this knowledge?
Yeah, it's very interesting the way they present that, because I remember when I was reading the first volume, I remember texting everybody when I got to that point of like learning you can't use magic on the body, because I was like, oh, okay, like magical HRT ban is like the first thing that comes to my mind, obviously. But then there's also things like, you know, there's a kid who is like colorblind essentially, and is like, you could fix that with magic, but you're not allowed to. And so that there's all these barriers kind of put up that at first seem very like unfair, and maybe they are unfair, and then later on it kind of shows you the reasoning for it. It's sort of like it convinces you of, or tries to convince you anyway, that these things are not actually like necessarily just to keep people in line, but to keep people safe. And I think it's like a tricky... I really like that at least up to this point, there isn't a hard and fast, like, and here's why it's good, or here's why it's bad. Like there are very clear arguments on either side for we should let more people use magic, or we should let people use magic on the body, or all of these things. And there are very clear arguments against that stuff. And I think it's just it's a well-drawn conflict that like makes a lot of sense in the world.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the writing here is specifically how it is constantly in this cycle of establishing world rules, and then immediately, before you've even really had time to process what the world rule is, going, oh, here's a complication to that rule, actually, and here is a challenge to that, and here is a different perspective on that. And then it kind of like giving you this constant rolling reality of like, all of this is so complicated. Nobody is starkly right or wrong. The world is messy. The world is confused. Like the brimmed caps are a huge example of this, in that like they do have their moments. They have their moments where you're like, they're not making a bad point. That is pretty valid, the thing that they're saying. But the then they'll
like, do something and you're like, hey, maybe don't do that.
They undermine themselves by perpetuating harm, like utilizing forbidden powers that they tout as they tout them as liberating, but they use them in scary, manipulative, and dangerous ways, and that just ends up enforcing the fears of the principles that they're trying to abolish.
Yeah. Well, and I think the regular, like the pointed cap witches do the same thing, where they're like,
absolutely,
they're making a great point, and then you're like, okay, but can't we give the colorblind boy like some glasses that will help him out?
Really?
Like,
how can they not make glasses for this? They have to be able to, right? It breaks my heart that nobody has been like, we got to make colorblind glasses for the Silver Wash guys.
So it is that kind of thing that it's like, both sides, I think that's why I really enjoy this series specifically, because, you know, Scout and I are caught up, and even to this point, there are times where I'm like, damn, they're making a good point. Ooh, damn, totally. They're making a good point.
In my heart of hearts, I keep going, Coco, like, maybe these brimmed caps have a point. Like, maybe you should talk. Like, every time they show up, I'm like, is this going to be the time when she finally starts, like, dabbling? I see both of you holding back smiles.
I'm just smiling because I'm thinking about other things.
I know. You know what happens after the chapters we've read for here. But every time they show up, I'm like push a little farther on this. Like, maybe there's something here. And I think that's really, that's just really compelling. Because I think the thing that they tempt her with is never like, you will have all of the power. You can enforce your will on others. You can be, you know, the leader of this world. It's always like, you can actually be better at helping people, which is the thing that you believe magic exists for, if you follow our path instead of theirs. And I think that's just like such a smart way of portraying that. Sorry, a car alarm just started going off. They heard me talking about the forbidden magic.
It's interesting. I know that it's very clearly about like forbidden knowledge and censorship and what we allow people to know. And also, and I think I said this like early on reading on, to me, some of the ways that this like series talks about magic feels really similar to the way that we talk about drugs, at least in the United States. I am a person whose life has been like deeply affected by people who have been addicted to drugs. And also, and like that informs like how I have, you know, decided to or not to engage with certain drugs. And also, I feel pretty strongly that like most of the reaction to drugs in this country is actually like a racial thing and is not actually informed by any of the actual problems that those drugs cause. And I would love to see us as a country explore the abilities of those drugs to actually help people. But I just like, we've limited that because of our other prejudices. And that is, I don't know, just like another lens on sort of a similar problem that just because of my life I couldn't kind of ignore.
Yeah,
100%.
I think that nudges up against a lot of stuff that comes up in these, like the final volumes that we read with Kustas, who is a boy who was like grew up on the street. Like he's like a poor, like very impoverished kid who becomes like a traveling sort of minstrel to make money. And he confronts Coco and another witch, like in the last bit that we read about like, you're keeping these secrets from people like me because of class prejudices. Like you think that we're beneath you and we like can't handle the truth that you are able to. Like that's prejudice. That's discriminatory. Like you're not helping us. You are being paternalistic. And I think like, that very much ties into what you were saying, Matt, where it's just like, maybe you have a valid point that like this is this can be used in harmful ways, but it's very clear that it's also reinforcing prejudices you have. Like it's clear in your mind that like some people can handle magic and some people can't. And I don't think it's a coincidence that those fall across like class lines, you know? Like you're creating an elite by guarding this knowledge.
Not to even like mention the abilities that magic grants you and the way that helps you navigate a world, right?
Which they go into a lot. They explicitly talk about. Kustas says at multiple times, Kustas says it, and even before Kustas says it, I believe Tarta, the other friend of Coco's, says it, that like, if Kustas had magic, there's a whole bunch of Kustas's life that would be way easier. Like, it would give him the ability to like get his own food, get fresh water, travel safer, not be cold at night, you know, all of this stuff that would just inherently across the board improve his quality of life. But it is kept from him because it is considered that it's too dangerous for him to know about it, you know, and know about the ways of doing it.
And I think that's really the class line is really reinforced too for me by the position of witch society, because they live like the main witch society, the higher ups of the witches. They live in a castle underwater. So
the bottom of the ocean.
Who the fuck is gonna get there normally? Nobody. Yeah. So it is very like, and I think it really says something to Qifrey's character, specifically that like he decided to live away from that. He decided to live in the countryside near people.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart, like, rhetorical positioning that this book does a lot, where they are, like, very much inside, like, they are inside witch society, but they're also outsiders in many ways. So it does kind of give you, especially, like, with Coco being new into the society, like, it gives you a lens to look at the sort of establishment from a somewhat of an outsider perspective, like, a little more neutral than, like, if she grew up in the Great Hall and this is just normal for her. Yeah. It feels as weird to her as it does to the reader, I think, which is a good, like, just kind of a good, like, on-ramp for you as a reader.
And I think that all of the girls, too, kind of have that, even though they were all born in witch society, they all have their kind of, their twist of, like, they are also on the outside of it. Like, Agate is from a very prestigious house, but was not selected to carry on the family business, and is very perfectionist about that. And Riche kind of has her own ideas about the way that she wants to do magic, and that butts up against what more traditional witch teachers would want for their students. So I think kind of everyone in this atelier is like primed for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Everybody, I mean, I suppose in these books we don't get much about Tetia, and I can't remember if there's been more of an expansion on Tetia's backstory, but at least with Riche and with Agate, as far as the other apprentices, they have both been very clearly and explicitly within the text wronged by witch society in some way, on top of, you know, being a part of it. And they bring that perspective and that texture to the storytelling as well.
Yeah. It sets up when Coco gets to the atelier that Agate like resents her, right? And for a long time, I mean, I'll just admit, I was like, I'm just kind of like pissed that I don't know anything about this character because I just kind of hate her. And then like intentional, but they eventually kind of tell you why she is that way. But I don't know. I ended up really loving the way those two characters played off of each other, and especially the ways that they change for each other.
I think that Coco and Agate's relationship throughout the whole book is
so
a cornerstone of it for me. Is everybody or anybody on this call familiar with the Japanese word phrase chunibyo?
Nope.
No.
A chunibyo is a Japanese term that like is sometimes translated as middle schooler syndrome, but you could also consider it like edgelord. It's basically when you're in middle school and you think you're the main character and you like write in your little it's like Yagami.
Jesus.
Like you draw like your little OCs in your journal with like all of this angel and devil symbolism or whatever, and you think like everybody just doesn't understand me. I have something going on and just nobody sees my spark yet. Nobody gets me, and like Agate is giving all of that to me in a way that I love it. I love that she is the chunibyo of this whole crew.
I love her.
No, I was just gonna say it took me a bit to warm up to her too, Matt, because I was like, oh, are they just gonna do the thing where she's just like, this is the one who Coco has to like prove her worth to, and da-da-da. And it's like, there's a little bit of that, but I think they make her much more of a real person than just like, I don't like you because you're new here, or you're like threatening my position. Like, they do give her some depth, and the fleshing out of their relationship in particular is like such it's so good.
I was saying they start fleshing her out before we get her backstory too, right? Like she goes a little too far with some of the stuff that she tries to pull on Coco and starts to regret it.
Yeah, it is. I like that it is not she has a sad backstory, so we have to empathize with her. I like that it is, she's realizing the error of her ways, and then, she does have a sad backstory too on top of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of growth that goes on with her, and she is supremely, I would say, like unlikable in her early chapters. And one of the things that I end up loving about her so much is how much growth she goes through. Yeah.
But I like also that it doesn't necessarily soften her. It's not like, I understand Coco now, and so I'm gonna be sweet and I'm gonna get along. It's like, no, she's still kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. Like she's still very much who she is. She has that kind of like perfectionist, needs to prove herself kind of thing, and just like finds ways to not let it hurt her relationships with her friends, which is like a really the book respects who she is enough not to like change that, and I really appreciate that about it.
Yeah.
Also, I did have to take a picture of this panel.
There's
so much romantic tension.
Yuri.
There's so much like you're my first crush, and so I have to be so mean to you kind of energy between them.
It's very get out of my school energy. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that particular Tumblr post where it's like, I liked a guy so much that it made me angry, and so I sent him I gave him an anonymous note that said, get out of my school.
Get out of my atelier. Is exactly what's going on.
Get out of my atelier.
It's literally like 3 chapters after where we've read, but there is kind of another very like romantic tension moment between the two of them.
And even if it isn't like actually romantic, there is that thing of like getting like, I think especially as a kid, like this mix you can have for people of like admiration and envy, and also like just being so different from each other that it just causes this friction where you're like, we should be getting along, but instead we have to fight because there's just like there's too much emotion going on. And I think like I don't know, this book in a lot of ways does a really good job of portraying that sort of like childlike emotion, and like the ways that it is kind of sometimes divorced from reality or heightened in ways, but not discounting it either. It's like, this is so important to you, and so that makes it important even if it's sort of like out of proportion with what's going on around you. I don't know, it's lovely.
No, it's great.
I don't know if this hits for anybody on the call but me, but Dodie could write a song about them.
Yeah.
Jill is nodding till you get me.
I get you, Scout. I don't listen to a lot of Dodie, but I am familiar enough to get it.
I think Dodie's newest album is the most bisexual disaster album I've maybe ever heard.
Another thing that I really wanted to talk about that's somewhat related is something I really like about this book is I think that it's very common that you have this story of like you're following the apprentices and seeing their mentors through their eyes. And the mentor characters, the adults, are kind of like either obstacles or just teachers or in some way unknowable. And I really like that, like, as this book goes on, it starts to get so much more concerned with like the stories of the adults around them. And very particularly like being very clear that like if you are a mentor to someone, the things that you owe to them and like the responsibilities that you have to children as an adult, like it takes so seriously. And that's something that I was just like not ready. Like I was not expecting in this book. I think it's like so mature in that way. I was so surprised by it.
There's some moments that like truly like get to the heart of it, especially with Olruggio, because he's very explicit about like, I am not a teacher. I am not here for the kids in that way. I'm here to make sure Qifrey does his damn job.
Yeah.
And there are moments where he specifically like snaps Qifrey out of his like tunnel vision and is like, hey, you need to focus on the kids right now. When it's just the two of us, we can talk about whatever's bothering you. But right now you need to like lock the fuck in.
And sometimes I think that's bothering him as Olruggio.
Yeah. Oh my God. I legitimately have written thousands of words just about my feelings about the dynamic between those two.
Agree. I mean, speaking of characters who grow on you, like Olruggio, at first he's just this grumpy old man, and then he's like, no, he like really cares about these kids in a way that's like so touching.
He cares so much. The scene with him having made all of the warm stones for everyone and having made an extra one for Qifrey, like, hey, you need to like, you also need to sleep. Like, here you go. But the way I think it is fascinating him as a character because so we have Qifrey is very like aligned with the element of water. Olruggio is very aligned with fire. And the ways that usually characters are kind of aligned with those elements is like the water character is usually calm and chill and like the healer and things like that. And the fire character is usually got a temper and a little bit more aggressive, but it kind of flips it on its edge of no, water is actually scary as fuck. Because that can kill you.
Water can kill you.
Water can kill you. It is not all great. And, you know, Qifrey is kind of the more temperamental of the two, whereas Olruggio is kind of more aligned with fire, but it feels more of a hearth rather than a blaze. It is very much like he is the warmth of the Atelier to me. I just love him so much. He's great.
He's good. I really like that he talks all this big talk about how he's not there for the kids, but clearly also cares about them. He's very there for them also. But it is that same thing of like, he is being responsible and saying like, this is technically not my job. Yeah. Unfortunately, I do care.
Legally, I cannot say anything. However, morally,
Qifrey is too much of a fuck up for me to not step in a little bit here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm just thinking about their relationship again.
It's so good. It's great. I mean, the relationship between those two also, is really lovely. Like when I realized how long they'd known each other, like that they were childhood friends, as you learn, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Because at first he is a watchful eye, which is like a position appointed by the Great Hall. Like if you have an atelier that's away from the Great Hall, you need a watchful eye to make sure that you're not breaking the rules and not harming the kids, which this book brings up in some ways that we should probably get into.
Yeah.
And it seems like at first he's there as like a functionary, and then you learn that they've been friends since childhood, and you're like, oh, I see. Like this puts so much into place, like the ways that you are able to check each other and the ways that it's so clear you care about each other is like, gosh.
Not only just like known each other, but like they like went through really traumatic experiences together that like form the basis of their adult relationship.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like we've talked about it already a little bit, but like the reveal that Qifrey has been erasing his memory.
Yes, that was what I was about to launch into, is that scene genuinely fucked me up.
It's intense.
It is intense. It is a moment where it really does, like, I feel like kind of highlight their relationship, especially because Olruggio is like, I know it's my job to tell people if you're doing the wrong thing, but I will shirk my duties because I want to help you because I care about you. And Qifrey being like, I can't let you do that. Like, I love you, but I cannot let you do that. Is just it is so much to me. And I feel like that moment especially is where I like became obsessed with their dynamic. And kind of when I read back the second time around, because the first time I read it, I had no idea. And then I hit that and I'm like, oh my God, this is okay. This is going somewhere. But even in volume 2, there is that foreshadowing of Olruggio, like when he meets Coco and he's like, you know, we're going to have to report this. You know, they're going to erase her memory. And he's like, well, they'll have to erase your memory too. And Olruggio's like, would you really turn your magic against me? And then you find out that he has been doing this. Ooh, it hurts.
Was that?
So do you think, Jill, do you think he has to do this a lot?
Yes, my interpretation of it was that it has happened over and over again.
Yeah, I got that too.
There's also a particular piece of promo art that Shirahama put out that kind of reinforces that. It's Qifrey holding like a picture of himself that's holding a picture of himself kind of going in and in with it. I think the general consensus is that it has been happening more than once.
Oof.
What does he keep finding out, I guess is my question.
Oh,
that is.
So yeah, he keeps finding out that Qifrey's going blind.
Oh, it's specifically that piece of information?
That he is not supposed, like, he is going to have to lose his magic because if he's blind, he can no longer do magic. And if he can no longer do magic, they're going to erase his memory so that he, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Because he can't know.
It's self-protection, yeah.
Yes. So he has been kind of hiding that secret that, like, hey, they did something to me. The Brimheads did something to my eye, and I can't reverse it without using forbidden magic. And so right now we're kind of just in a holding pattern of like, you would have to report this. You would have to report that my eye's all fucked up, and that would remove me from your life. And so when Olruggio's like, well, I can't do that. Like, I can't take you out of my life. Qifrey's like, okay, then we have to erase your memory because, like, if you're not gonna do it and I'm not gonna do it, then we need to make sure that we don't remember this.
But the crazy thing is, in that scene, he doesn't even give him the chance.
No, he doesn't.
He just like puts the hat on his head and does it.
I hadn't even really worked out. I thought it was more about other stuff with Qifrey and Qifrey not wanting Olruggio to like be endangered.
There is that too, but I think primarily.
But I hadn't even thought about that like if you can do magic and then something happens that makes you physically unable to do magic, they still wipe you.
Yeah, I think that is what is, if I remember correctly, that is kind of what is implied by him going blind and it being the fault of the Brimhats that, you know, much like Uni, he had it forced upon him.
Right.
But it still happened. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of layers to that scene that also, like, come into play later on in later chapters beyond what we read, but it is very much that scene kind of really defines the relationship between those two as, like, both of them being very self-sacrificing for each other and kind of not letting the other one take the fall. Yeah, they make me eat drywall. I have to look at this lovely concept art of Olruggio to clear my mind. Sorry.
I think everybody, including people on this call, but everybody who's enjoying the manga should also continue reading the manga.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm very glad that I only finished volume 9 last night because I immediately need to continue. Like, I wouldn't have been able to stop myself from reading ahead. Like, I need to go on instantly.
I was surprised upon reread how many Sinister Qifrey moments there are in the early manga that I had kind of forgotten about or not registered as sinister as they are in those early chapters. He is scary
He's
sometimes.
got some scary moments.
He had my hackles up right away. I was like, I don't know about this guy.
He's kind of fucked up.
He has that moment where he like goes into like the tower and then like creates some portal or cave or something in the wall.
He seals himself off inside of like the tower.
But then he like makes a path to somewhere else, and then like we don't see the rest of that scene. If I remember,
yeah. Well, that's when he finds that the brim hats have altered Coco's bottle of ink somehow. And he's using a spell to trace, to magically find the source of that, to like find where the person is.
Oh, okay.
And that's when the brim cap shows up at the atelier to like attack him and steal the ink bottle back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's been a while since I read that.
He's up to some shit. A lot.
He's up to some shit.
He's got some shit going on.
So he says this thing in the like test like sequence, the test arc, where he's like, "Did you see someone who looked like me come through here?"
Yes,
and it's implied.
Yeah, I've been waiting.
And
for
it's
that
implied
payoff.
that it's implied that it's a one of the Brimcap like witches, and I'm like, hold on, is Igwin like a twin?
That's
my theory.
That is my prevailing theory: is that Igwin is either a twin or has done something to make himself look like Qifrey, or done some. There is some relation between those two.
Or is like a version of Qifrey.
Or a weird doppelganger.
Yes, there is something going on with those two. My interpretation.
Because if Qifrey can erase what we know he erased, like anything could be in his past, you know, like, and he's just made the people who know forget about it. Like that's. Ugh.
Well, I think there's also a possibility that like some version of Qifrey was split off, right?
Yeah.
Like I think he lost an eye in that like traumatic
so I think
injury, right?
That is my thing, is because Igwin has like the singular eye imagery as part of his hat. My theory is, because I feel like I remember, I may be remembering it wrong, but it's something about like not just like the brim hat who has a face like me, but the brim hat who has an eye like me, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be wrong, but
I think
definitely
he specifically calls out just the face and not the eye in that moment, but there could be something later.
I might be going
that I'm misremembering.
Going wild, but my theory definitely is that like I think Igwin has Qifrey's other eye, basically.
Yeah. The reason I think it is a twin or brother or dark magic doppelganger situation is specifically coming from, I suppose, a more obvious standpoint of these are the two sides of the teacher coin for Coco. This is the brimmed cap that first gave her magic, and this is the pointed cap that took her in and like began to cultivate her ability to actually use magic and protected her from that being taken away. And they are pushing and pulling her at any given moment. And so I think if you tied that into, and they look the same, or they have some shared past, then now we're in the kitchen and we're cooking.
Yeah. And it'd also be a good way to bring the temptation for Coco like even further thematically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like I mentioned, there is like explicit parallels drawn via like the art that is put in. Like there are definitely like multiple moments of, you know, Qifrey and Igwin being like portrayed either on the same spot on opposite pages, or the one with Coco in the brimmed hat, like Igwin being the teacher behind her on the brim hat side and Qifrey being on the other side. I think there's a lot going on between those two.
While we're on Ominous Qifrey,
While
we're on Ominous Qifrey, I do want to point out a thing that I noticed that hasn't been brought up again, and it's making me like, am I reading way too much into this? But I keep thinking about it during the sort of falling apart of the test in the Serpentback Cave, where after Uini has been taken away, and in the middle of after an attack from the brimmed caps, Qifrey and Coco and Tetia get sort of separated, and Qifrey gets injured protecting the girls. They make a big show of talking about his drawing arm being injured, which is a huge deal for a witch, because as a witch needs to be able to draw, to be able to cast. And then a couple chapters later, we see him holding a pen in the opposite hand.
Interesting.
And it hasn't ever been brought up again. I don't think I'm going to have to, I don't remember like the more recent chapters well enough to be able to recall from it. But I'm just, it could just be that he's just finishing a circle on something that was already drawn, but it's a very big, prominent half-page image of Qifrey competently holding the pen in the other hand. And he does it in that battle when nobody's watching him, and he hasn't done it any other time, as far as I can remember. And
Interesting.
There's got to be something. There's got to be something about it.
I'm not good at watching
what
hands people are
never
using.
in a million years
Not
would have noticed that.
But like, also, Scout, honestly, given the things that I have seen in this goddamn manga, I would not be surprised if that is important.
If it's gonna come up, it's another secret, right? Like, in a way, it is another thing on the pile of Qifrey secrets. But it seems like it would be a great way to keep people guessing, or to have people underestimate you, or it's, oh my god, it's the fucking Princess Bride. I am not left-handed. I am also not left-handed. I do also just want to really drive home that Yuini's entire story devastates me.
It's so sad.
It is a heartbreaking story of somebody who is so anxious and needs support in a way that he is not getting, and is being driven, in fact, into a worse state of anxiety by a teacher who is only harming him through his tutelage, and it just kills me.
Which I think that kind of comes back. I know, Matt, you mentioned that we kind of wanted to talk about certain things about the ways teachers interact with and have a responsibility to students.
Specifically, the thing I was just thinking about as you were talking just now, Scout, is that the times that we see people being terrible to their students in these books is primarily like among the witches that live in the Great Hall, or at least spend most of their time there. We were talking about class earlier, and I think that is a really interesting it's just like a really interesting divide between, I mean, we really only get Qifrey's Atelier as a comparison, but it's interesting to me that we don't see other stories of abused students that are not that are also from ateliers that exist outside of like the seat of power, right? We see 2 or 3 different stories of students who have been abused by their teachers, and all of them exist within that empowered society. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting way to go about telling those stories. I remember reading the whole Great Hall sequence specifically, which is right after like Yuini's story, and being like, this feels different from the rest of this book. And I think it almost felt like I was reading a different fantasy story, because it was this structure and a world and like a class system that like until that point I had not experienced in this story.
I think that's also like, I think it's really interesting your point that like it only seems to be in this insular community, because I feel like that is very parallel to a lot of like situations of like long-standing abuse, like specifically Richet's brother. It is, there's a bit where Richet's backstory is kind of revealed about her brother's teacher is heavily implied to be definitely physically abusive to students, possibly sexually abusive to students, and like has been doing it, but because he is in this insular community, in this seat of power, it is never really like taken seriously or investigated deeply, which I think is very much how a lot of like, you think about like religious sects of like, they're the ones in power. So even if someone does come forward and say like, hey, this person was, abusing me or was abusing someone I know, it is very much like the community kind of protecting its own like powerful individuals. And I think that's really like hammered home by those specific story beats.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a book that's largely about in a lot of ways, like institutional power and like who gets to wield it and who is kept away from it and the people that it chooses to harm or help. So I think it's pretty natural that you then also have to deal with the idea of like personal power as well. Like if you have institutions of power that can be abused, then you have people who are going to use that institution to inflict things on people. I was really I don't know. I'm sort of curious about how the Riche stuff landed for people, because I sort of have two minds when that first shows up, where there's a panel where you see the master sort of touch Riche's brother in a way that implies, like you said, Jill, like there's some sexual abuse going on that's like not made explicit or it's not dwelled upon, but is clear there. And then it just kind of drops it, which kind of planted in my mind like that this was going to be something that we come back to. But at the moment, I don't know, it sort of felt like almost like a release valve in a weird way, because when the idea of this story is established, where it's like you have a bunch of adults acting independently who have these children living with them in, secluded environments where they have total control over them and are responsible for like every aspect of their lives and well-beings. That's like a situation that is like almost engineered to create some kind of abusive power structures. Like you mentioned religion, like that's something that like, that's where a lot of that comes out of. And so by portraying one person abusing that power, it almost kind of takes the pressure off of everyone else, where it's like, well, they're depicting it happening here, so I can safely assume that it isn't happening when it's not being depicted. Where like it's easier to believe that Qifrey isn't abusing his power if you see another person in his position who is. So you know that it's not just something that the book is ignoring. At least that was my my read on it at first. But I don't know. I'm curious about how that hit people.
If I recall correctly, I think they do circle back to. I think
they do
in future chapters there is.
But I just mean when it first appears, it is very isolated.
Well, and even beyond where we've read, like it is definitely not something that is just dropped. But no, I can definitely see like how that is. I can definitely like get that interpretation. I also think that a lot of that particular section of the book where they're in the castle is also, I feel like, just showing a variety of different teachers, because we do get, oh God, what's his name?
Highheart and Juji?
Yes, Highheart and Juji, which they like have a great relationship. Yeah. And we get Belderut and Qifrey, and they had like a good teacher-student relationship, but it was also very strained. And it is like very clear that like even though there was nothing untoward seeming to go on, like there is a definite like resentment or stress upon that relationship. So I feel like specifically that whole section was very much like showing off a bunch of different dynamics, but I can definitely see like your interpretation of like the release valve for sure. But I think only watchful eyes are only for ateliers outside of
which is
the thing, right?
Kind of interesting with these themes too, right?
Yeah.
Like the seat of power is where we see the most abuse. That was kind of like what I was getting at. Like as far as we know, there's not anyone doing that job in the Great Hall.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I did want to stick with that idea though of the like masters abusing their power, because when that does come back in specifically there's a theme of I think it comes up of like sexual abuse of the students, which is, again, I think something that you have to address. Like when you have the society structured the way it is here, I think it is kind of natural that people will wonder if there's something untoward going on, as I was saying. And then I think where that comes full circle for me isn't even dealing with Richa and her brother again, but it's the chapter that is focused on Lulacy, who Lulacy is one of the witch cops. She's one of the Knights Moralis. And there's a chapter that is like genuinely one of my favorite chapters of what we read, just in terms of like emotional impact. I don't think favorite actually so feels good. Wrong, but one of the most like impactful chapters, I would say, where there's this big festival going on called Silver Eve, and you learn that part of the job of the Knights Moralis is not just like looking for witches who are using forbidden magic, but looking for witches who like abuse their power in any way. So you find this guy who's made like glasses that let you like see through people's clothes. He's like peeping on people. Pervert glasses.
Yeah, perv glasses.
As you may know them. And there's a story of like her tracking this guy down. And then it goes into flashback where you see she is sent with another young student to help some guy with a problem or whatever, doesn't really matter. He is basically using this as a front to get these girls into his home and attempt to sexually abuse them. And it's really rough. It's like a rough chapter. It's in no way explicit, but there's an image in particular of like one of the girls being dragged essentially behind a closing door that is like haunting.
Yeah. It is also notable. This is a chapter like there is an explicit
which I was really like
before reading the chapter for this.
Very happy to see. It was like it gives a content warning. It's like, here's what we're going to deal with. If you want to skip this chapter, you don't need to read it. Like we've made it so the rest of the story will make sense without this, which I think is like a really responsible thing to do. But like Lucy attacks this person who's hired them. And when they go back to their master, he is basically saying, I'm going to take you to the witch cops because you are, fucking up my deal. You shouldn't have attacked that man. It was no big deal.
Yeah.
And then the witch cops take the side of the children and like erase the master's memory. And I just thought that was such a good way to bring that plot line and the stuff with like Rich's brother and all that full circle, because I think, like as a writer, I imagine you don't want to do that story too pat, right? Like when it first comes up, you don't want to be like, and here is the lesson to take from this. And here is, me spelling out why it's bad to abuse children, which is like, a very obvious point, right? But at the same time, this is a book that's like nominally for kids, or at least for young adults. And so I think you do kind of have to consider, which it very much seems like Shirahama has, the impact that these stories will have on young readers. And I think one thing you want to very much not do is tell a story where there are kids being abused and no one believes them and the abuse just continues to happen, which is what happens with like Rich's brother. So I think this is a really smart way to tell that story in a way that gets the idea across that like, one, like there are bad people out there in the world who are going to abuse their power against you, but there are adults out there who will believe you if you bring this stuff to them. And more importantly, it is not your fault if this happens to you. Like you have the power to say no. Yeah. And some people might not listen to that, but other people will believe you if you tell them that has happened to you. And it is not on you if this kind of thing has happened. And I just think it's such a thoughtful and like responsible telling of that story in this setting that it was just like, I don't know, I was like very, very moved by that chapter in particular.
No, I 100% agree. I think that chapter is, and it is also an incredible moment to me of, again, like we keep saying, like showing this world as not black and white. There are people who are going to get away with the bad things that they are doing. There are people who are going to be held accountable for the things they are doing. We keep calling them the witch cops, but like there are these moments, like with Lulusi, where like they are genuinely doing some good in the world.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a chapter that like very explicitly shows us the Knights Moralis being effective and good and, on the right side of history in this conflict, in a way of where like most of the time that we have seen them up to this point, they have been, if not outright antagonistic, at least at friction, at odds with our main characters.
And Lucy in particular has shown up before. Like there is a moment that I also mentioned to you guys before is when they get to the Grand Hall, and this is sort of coming back to the themes of like care and responsibility that this book has so much. They get to the Grand Hall because Qifrey has been injured in that fight, and so he is in the hospital, and all of the kids are like there to visit him. And there's a moment where the Knights Moralis need to come and talk to all the witches to find out what they know about Uni, basically him disappearing and this forbidden magic. And so there's a scene where Lulusi kind of storms into the hospital and is like demanding to speak to all the witches who are involved, and the healer is there. I forget her name. Sinosia. She like kind of shushes Lulusi and points off to the corner, and then the next panel is just all of the girls like kind of sleeping, like leaning on each other very sweetly. And it just like, that was another thing that just hit me so hard, where it's like, here is a person who is so concerned with making sure these kids are okay that she is like telling like the cop who's busted in to interrogate them, like, let them sleep, like they've had a rough day. there's just like, I don't know, there's so many moments in all of these books of just a person just doing those very small little gestures of care for people that shows that they like take this responsibility very seriously. And again, like, you know, assuming this is a book for younger audiences, I think that's just such an impactful thing to show like adults looking out for kids and like taking their responsibilities seriously, which is another thing, like, I feel like you don't see that much. You know, you see stories that are focused on kids and the things that they owe to their elders, but like the idea of what you owe to people who you are responsible for is just like such a common theme in this book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I think also kind of, you know, works with Qifrey too, because we've talked about nefarious, sinister Qifrey moments, but there are also those moments where he is a genuinely good teacher to them, and he listens to them and encourages them to like share their ideas and like is genuinely concerned with their growth as students, as witches. And so they're their individuality, like very specifically teaching each of them differently, approaching all of them in the way that they need. Yeah. So I think, you know, it really, to me, like, this is, if I had to sum up the entirety of this series and characters, it would just be complex and nuanced, because it feels like every element kind of is dealt with in a way of like, here are the two sides, neither is 100% right, neither is 100% wrong, nothing is 100% good or bad. Like, we have to exist in this kind of in between and figure out for ourselves like how we're going to approach things, which I think is also a very like kind of going back to this also being about magic being creativity. Like, yeah, creativity is about finding that middle ground, that nuance sometimes, like figuring out how am I going to do this in a way that is true to what I think or how I believe, and also do it in a way that is unique to me.
Yeah.
On that creativity angle, and also the thing you said about like teaching the children in different ways, I think it's really interesting to see the way that like Agate approaches magic versus the way that Riche approaches magic. Riche has this whole moment where, you know, her whole thing is she doesn't want to use spells that other people have made, right? Like, so good. She's just not interested in that. She wants to make her own. It's really cute, frankly. And she has this realization that she needs to learn the basics in order to do the things that she wants. Like, learning the basics can actually make her spells better. Whereas like Agate's whole approach to learning magic is like rote memorization and perfection. Yeah. It's almost the entirely opposite process. And the journey she goes through is on like opening up to new experiences, to new people, seeing different ways of approaching things, the ways that she learns so much from Coco, specifically the way that like Coco is like enamored with magic. And I don't know, I love watching, I realize like we said earlier, Qifrey has some like sinister moments, but I love watching him interact with these girls and like in the very moments
he has his
like
moments, but I do want to reiterate, he is also genuinely like a really good teacher and a positive role model in these girls' lives in many instances too. And he's a great guy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think it is that idea of coming at that, like, what does this person need from me, and not what do I want this person to be. Like, there are so many there's so many of the early chapters of this book feel like very pointed lessons about like motivation and self-esteem and things like this for like the presumed kids who are reading it, without ever feeling preachy. Like, everyone has their own little journey, like Richa's, and coming to learn that like she doesn't have to sacrifice her individuality just by learning the basics. Like, there's a moment where she says something like, there will always be like a part of me in any spell I cast just because I cast it. Like, I don't lose myself by taking from what other people have learned and applying that to myself. Like, Uni's that with the test, like his thing about like he's been told he can't do it and therefore he thinks he can't, and like he just needs to be someone to tell him like, you can do this, like you can approach this in your own way. Like, it has so many of these tiny little lessons wrapped in those early chapters of like, you know, embracing your individual approach to things, and how that relates to like your own ideas of like creativity and learning and things. It's so sweet. It's such a like gentle book in so many ways, especially in those opening volumes that I don't know, I really love that.
I think that in that moment too, there's a particular, I don't know if I saved it. One of the things that she says, I think it's 61. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
I love that you just know exactly what chapter it is.
I know this.
They're like, oh, I think it's 69.
No, I knew it was page 61 because I had taken a note on it and I was like, maybe I should bring this up. And then I didn't keep it in the notes. And then Robin brought it up. But it also is a segue for something else that I was like, oh yeah, this reminds me. So the line that she has is, because I'm there inside the seals too, inside every line, and it's always been that way. Which I think, is also interesting when you're looking at this as it is a medium. It is like, this is drawn. She is literally inside those lines. And I think that is also played really well with a lot of some, like, Shirahama's styling of certain drawings or specific paneling, specifically in like volume 1, there is a panel or 3 panels that all share a background, and it is Coco going from the roof down to the loft, down the stairs. And so and there's another one in that volume where Qifrey is literally leaning against the edge of a panel. Like,
I love it when Shirahama does that.
The way that like the characters interact with the medium of it being a book or it being drawings, I think is kind of like just as integral as this being a moment of her kind of realizing her own her individuality and her relationship with the magic.
Not to be all plotty, but I keep waiting for some of the more like ornamental art to turn out to like have a narrative meaning. Never mind. I see you chewing on your t-shirt.
Yeah, so I did put this in. I did put this in there. There is a lot of design elements that do work with foreshadowing in this book. And the way that certain panels are constructed, the way that certain, like you mentioned, a lot of this ornamental stuff, like, does seem to be very relevant. Even in things that we've read, like, there are points where it's like, yeah, these scales kind of going across the pages and things like that. Like, it is very
even
much...
like there's pages that look like illuminated manuscripts, right?
Yes.
Like, and it, again, I don't know, not everything's about plot, but like, are we being told a story that is maybe ancient history is like a version of a thing that could happen?
Oh,
right? Like these like, I just keep waiting for these, things that are gorgeous and beautiful and awesome, and they would just be great if they were just ornamental, right? But like, because the book is about like art and creativity, to like have an impact on the story, it may or may not ever happen, but I don't know. It's stuff like leaning on the panels, like, it
is. Well, and I think especially with the Ramanan, there was definitely elements of that in a lot of the panels too. If I recall correctly, like the story of the ancient city, like, does have a lot of that sort of illumination feel and kind of ties into the way the story is told.
Absolutely.
There is one of my favorite things related to that is...
that ladder. Sorry, you're looking at this.
Is that not insane to you?
What the fuck? It's really good. It's
to
really
describe
good.
to the listener what we're looking at 3 panels that line up together. They don't line up in a way that like they are from the same shot. It's just the pieces of each of the panels like smoothly go into the other one. And so you're seeing the top and the bottom of this ladder, and the artist has like lined them up so it looks like it's just a small ladder.
Infuriates
but it's telling
me.
this narrative.
It is almost like a what is it called?
There's another one that's like almost the exact same stuff in one of the early chapters where they're running along a road. Like, she just does this.
Yeah.
She's just showing off.
This looks specifically like, it's like the perspective Hades is in, the perspective like Final Fantasy Tactics is in. Isometric, thank you! Oh my god, it was killing me. There is something isometric about these panels, especially, with like, this looks like the roof. If you could like, the roof is going to turn transparent as she climbs down this ladder, because you're going to have gone from the exterior to the interior. Of a video game.
It's very cute. It's like a little play set. The thing I was thinking of there is the second chapter in volume 9. So chapter 47 literally starts with another book opening and like a poem about, you know, an ancient poem about how the gift of magic was given to human beings. And then that ends with, there's a 2-page spread, page 30 and 31, where, you know, Coco and the gang are walking through the Silver Eve fair, and it just turns into a comic book. Like, you see the page turning at the bottom of the page. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that
wild.
But that
and then
chapter,
there's,
like,
you know, like 3 pages later, she's drawn an entire board game.
It's
the board
wild.
game is so good.
Like, that's, I got to the point and I'm like, oh, she's just like having fun. Like, how are you on chapter 47 and you're still just like, I don't know, what kind of weird thing can I pull off here?
Showing off. No, I think the verse is really interesting too, because I noticed when I was looking at my books, the first 4 volumes on the summary on the back is all written in verse.
Is all in verse, yeah.
Don't know what that means.
I thought it was curious that it was only the first 4 and that didn't keep up. And I was like, I wonder if there's a significance to it being the first 4, or if it's just that they said we don't want to do that anymore because it's hard.
Because we're getting too complicated to sum it up like that.
I bet it's the latter, especially with translation and all the above.
Yeah. The other thing that's really cool about this one that you called out that is like a comic book page that is flipping is not only is it a page that's flipping, but there is also a shadow to show you the depth of like the paneling. The gutter is a physical object that is above the background, which also seems to be a plane, like a flat plane.
I'm just waiting for the moment that one of these gets printed and it's like the seal is actually cut out in the book, and that's how it goes. Yeah. Like, I'm just waiting for something ridiculous like that to happen.
You said there is a page that is flipping, and the 1,000 Times Resist fan in me said there is a page and it is flipping.
There is a page and it is flipping.
We're literally, just to listener, all 4 of us are flipping through our books right now.
Yeah, just looking at stuff. I'm just looking for more of this ornamental stuff, because like, you're so right. Like, there's so much.
So good.
There's so much. There's just so much.
While we're talking about this, is tangentially related to ornamental stuff. Is I want to highlight for listeners the unbelievable mastery of drapery that Shirahama has.
This is a book very much about robes.
Kamome Shirahama knows how to drape cloth in a way that makes the artist part of my brain like despondent beside myself. Like, I genuinely, last night, I was like, you know what I should do is I should do some studies of some of this shit, because good Lord, is it just, well, the way that it moves, the way that the folds look, the weight of everything, knows how to do a fucking, knows it.
Yeah,
she's got it.
I think the best part of whenever the Knights Moralis show up is like, oh, we're going to see some really cool like ribbon tricks for a while. That's going to be awesome.
We're going to see ribbon work.
The
ribbons are so good. There's also a bunch of notes that have like there's little like world building bits in bonuses in the back of some of the volumes.
Like, here's all the outfits from this issue. It's so good.
And there's some that are specifically about the outfits and specifically about what the Knights Moralis wear. And keep mentioning how the outfits of the Knights Moralis are based off of some mythical bird in this world that only appears that only appears in the in like the dreams of wrongdoers.
So good.
Which fucking rules.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the portmanteaus?
Oh my God.
They're so good.
Oh.
I think the first one I sent y'all a screenshot of was Angrice.
Angrice is so
good. One of the later chapters we read, she is I think she's asking Qifrey if they can go see more of the Golden Eve festival, and she's like, and be careful, because if you say no, you'll earn 10 Angrice points.
Yeah. I love when she talks about Angrice points. I gotta love it. I gotta be kidding is an all-timer.
Yeah, it's such a like newspaper comic strip joke. It's so funny.
Well, and the art is also in those panels looks like a newspaper comic strip.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's so many portmanteaus that also happen literally in the like sound effects, essentially, like the place where sound effects would be. And I meant to go through, I didn't get a chance to go through and like, because those are also like, it's written out in English, but there is also still the like katakana or hiragana characters in any of those. And I didn't get a chance to go look at like what the portmanteaus are in Japanese, but I know that that's what's written there. It's like those are also those are the Japanese portmanteaus that they have had to. I only looked at one which wasn't in one of the chapters that we read, but it was in another chapter that I was reading this morning because, of course, I did keep reading and have been sort of chipping away at continuing to reread through everything. There's one later that is, I believe, Olruggio.
Yes, I was trying to find the Olruggio ones because those crack me up.
Yeah, there was.
They're so funny.
I'm not going to remember.
I mean, Seal Chair is even a good one.
Seal Chair is good, yeah. But Olruggio in Japanese, I had the page up and I lost it. Oh, it comes from it says Daruggio, which comes from Darui, which is like listless, and it's him like laying back. He's like and it says Daruggio over him. That's what it is.
That's so fun, man.
Speaking, I suppose, in terms of sort of comic relief stuff, we have to give a shout out to the Brush Buddy.
Yeah. Creature of all time.
It's so good.
The all-time little guy. It's just a little white tube with two big round eyes looking at you, who loves the scent of the magical ink that they use. Yes,
that's such a good one.
I love this one. I love when he's got his little
flying squirrel.
He goes, "Pwee." Yeah, they kind of got like a little bit of flying squirrel energy. There's one that shows up later that's like, so we've got the one that's like all white,
the
that
all
hangs
black
out with
everything
them,
one,
and then the all black one shows up, and they like are facing. It's just like a little moment of comedic relief. These two brush buddies just facing off, going "pwee" at each other, and they're just so endearing. I love them.
They're so good, and there's so many panels where you cut to somebody and you see that they have just been like petting the brush buddy, and who knows how long they've just been there petting the brush buddy, but clearly it's been a while.
Yeah. I also love how they get used for like plot because they're attracted to ink, right? They're like
it's
cute
so
comic relief and also then show up to like solve problems sometimes.
Yeah. More than once, the brush buddy has been the MVP of any particular situation because they're like, we can send the brush buddy towards where the ink is and he'll help us. I still just think every time I see the Knights Moralis, I just think we have the Turks from FF7 at home. They're not 1-to-1, but it's so like Utawin is so Reno from FF7,
she
and
literally is the.
I was so concerned when they first showed up. I was like, "Who are these fucking shonen boys invading this manga? I don't need this."
It's like if the Turks from FF7 also had Yuffie, but Yuffie was twins.
Yeah. One of my favorite fan artists is unrepentantly horny about Aesthese.
Shout out.
Shout out.
I think that was the last thing that I just kept thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So we put out a call for questions in the Discord right before this episode. We've never done this before. It was just an idea that I had randomly about an hour before we recorded. And we got a few questions, actually. One, I'll just call this out. It's from Yuki. I think we've covered this pretty clearly in the conversation so far. They asked, so far, how are you finding the world building and the good versus forbidden magic? I didn't know if there's anything else somebody wanted to add about that.
I'm eating it like a dessert.
It's really good. I really appreciate how it appears like it's a top-down effect of like it appears in the big picture, but it also appears in these microcosms. There is one thing that I just remembered I haven't brought up yet, which is this moment that happens during the exam, during the test, where like we have these early parts of that test where Riche is really pushing back against Yuini's assertion of there being a right choice of the spells to use for this second test. And then we get pushback against that, and we see Riche saying, there is no right or wrong, there is just doing the thing. And then we also have Agate using that exact wording again later, pleading with Coco to make the right choice to resist the temptation of forbidden magic to help Yuini after Yuini has been transformed. And so just like, it feels so intentional that it is like, this is the same line, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that it is like permitted and forbidden magic and not good and evil magic. Like it's about... Yeah, I don't know. It's about how you use it. It's not about the magic itself. Like, there's a moment in the Silver Eve thing where everyone is making new spells to sell or whatever. And Olruggio makes this spell that is like cold fire, basically. It's like a fireball that doesn't burn you. And then he goes on this long thing about, I can't sell it because it works too well. So if I put this fireball that can't hurt you out into the world, it will like teach children that like fire is safe to play with and you shouldn't be careful around it, which like, I don't really agree with his reasoning. I think it's kind of a weird argument, but I do like that idea that like the proper way to use magic is to think through all of the consequences and to make sure that like, just because you're not using it for ill intent doesn't mean it won't hurt someone down the line. And I think that is the thing. It's that idea of like responsibility versus like carelessness that divides forbidden from permitted, at least in theory. And I really appreciate that. And yeah, like you said, Scout, just the small ways that like that same philosophy shows up all over the place makes it seem so much less black and white and more just like a product of the thinking in this world, which I just really like.
Yeah.
That part specifically, that specific invention, I had a similar reaction. I was like, his logic feels weird. But at the same time, it felt refreshing to have someone invent a technology and like wonder what might happen to the world because of it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that?
That's
just a quote that I hear, I've heard Austin Walker say in several contexts. I forget who the original quote is from, but it's this idea of like, when you invent the car, you invent the car crash. That idea of when you bring something new into the world, you have to consider like the ways that it will be used that you don't intend. Which is
it's the torment nexus,
right? Yeah, you don't want to accidentally make the magical torment nexus. So I think it's a really, really smart way of going about things.
This question is from mbrodz in Discord. Whilst I was reading, I couldn't help but imagine how this world could work as a video game. What kind of game do you think that this world could be? MMORPG or open world RPG seems like the obvious pick, but it's fun to think about how it could actually play out in that genre and maybe others. Probably something along the lines of cozy vibes stuff.
I think Witch Hat Kitchen would make a great cozy game. And I think, unfortunately, the way I would love to have this be a game would involve the DS touchscreen with the stylus, like drawing your own sigils. But unfortunately, that will never happen.
No, that's literally what I was going to say. Like, it would be like a magic workshop game where you have to like craft sigil. You know, people come in and they're like, I need this problem solved. And you have to take all the little parts of your sigils and signs and figure out how to use them in what order.
Yes.
Like strange horticulture and strange antiquities.
And I think Potioncraft also does something similar. Is that the name of it?
There's a little bit of that in Moonlighter. Not exactly the same, but
I can definitely see like a little workshop sim where you're making your own sigils.
I love the DS idea.
Drawing the seals is so essential. Like that's
it would be so
it would just be
good.
like Mavis Beacon teaches typing, but instead it's Mavis Beacon teaches seal craft.
I could see even just like a traditional JRPG where like the drawing is the movement and the combat and the casting. I can see that on the DS just like fully formed in my head.
Like the thing in some JRPGs where if you press the button at the right time, if you have good rhythm timing, you do more damage.
Get the perfect parry.
You get the if you draw the sigils clearer, you do more damage. If you don't draw the sigil well enough, then the spell is worse. Stuff like that.
I would fail at that video game.
We all saw how that went with me playing Final Fantasy VIII. It would not go well for me playing this as my friend being like, no, you have to listen for the audio cues. I'm like, I can't fucking hear the audio cues.
Oh, not Final Fantasy VIII, when you were playing The Witness.
No, there was also Final Fantasy VIII. It was some, or maybe it was 7. I don't know. There was something.
Oh, there is timing in Final Fantasy VIII with Squall's knife. Yes.
Yes.
Squall's knife.
It's even cooler than a knife. It's a gunblade. But yeah, I can definitely see that being a thing. And also, I would be terrible at it.
I kind of want the cozy game thought made me think about a Stardew Valley but you have an atelier that you have to work out of, which is very similar to other stuff we've said, but a garden where you're growing all of your components and you have to tend to those every day, stuff like that.
I can see an idle version of that too.
Ooh, yeah. Damn. Shirahama, hit us up.
Weird fucked up Fire Emblem where you are the Qifrey and you are training your apprentices, it's to make them really good in battle.
Wow. Evil Qifrey.
You are Egwin.
You are Egwin.
It's funny, I actually don't think a lot of traditional combat in video games would work for this series.
No.
That's something that I appreciate about this book is that it's not that it never comes to violence, but the way to win a fight is never beating the other guy up. It's it's always about ingenuity. I think that's really nice.
You gotta outthink your opponent.
You gotta think about it.
All right. Next question.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to read this name as it's written today. Ghost of Josei says, in which Hat Atelier, the act of making magic is a creative process. Did the manga's depiction of that process via magic speak to you and your own processes? In what ways did it match or differ from your own experiences?
I mean, yes.
Next question.
Unfortunately, this panel that I'm about to bring up is, I think, from chapter 58, so just after what we read. But there is a moment where a character says, the fact is sometimes the you who wants to sit down and create gets undermined by the you who can't seem to pick up the pen. And that's woof. That is writer's block. Real. That is it. It's I want to do this so bad, but something in my brain is just saying, we can't do this right now. I've got the creativity, but it is just not coming out onto the page.
That's so real. I have so many
good moment.
I have so many projects that I see fully formed in my head, but getting them from idea to execution is
it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it's so painful. But then I don't know. Everyone knows that when you finally manage to do it, you're why was that so hard? It's not that hard. So yeah, I don't know. I saw a lot of and maybe this is why I was not a fan of her to begin with. I see a lot of myself in Agate's struggle with seals, right? And wanting to be perfect about all of it and feel there is a traditional right way to do things. I am a person who really struggles to learn outside of a classroom environment. And I don't know. I think that just there's something that I have within me that is there is a right way to go about something. And that right way is not always actually the traditionally right way. Sometimes it's just the way that I got in my head 20 years ago or whatever.
Great news, Matt. The character that was speaking that line that I read out was in fact Agate. So.
Oh, sick.
That's interesting. I mean, if we're thinking of who maybe this is a good sub question, which of the witches is most like your style? I think I'm definitely a Richa in that way, where I'm I don't want you to tell me the right way to do this. I want to do it the way that I want to do it. It's not fun for me if I'm just following the rules. I have to be enjoying myself for being able to have any motivation. But for the broader question, I think it's a little tougher because this is so closely tied in with visual art I think it's a little harder to translate to like writing or whatever. But I think in the ways that we talked about, like the early chapters of this book being about each of the girls kind of finding their own style, and like the ways that their own like strengths and limitations inform the way that they cast spells. I think there's sort of a lesson there that I think can kind of apply to everyone. That's like your own process is your own, and it's just never going to suit you to try to make your process something it isn't. But I don't know if I see myself particularly in like the casting.
Probably not surprising to anybody, but yes, I see a lot of myself in this. I have in fact been like sending messages during this recording. I have made jokes like Richie not wanting to do any spells but her own is me at like age 16 determining that I don't want to use reference. There is definitely a lot of, obviously Shirahama is a visual artist. She's also a very talented writer. But I think a lot of this stuff and a lot of the writing that she does in here about spell casting, about the creation of spells, about the execution of spells, about the struggle of learning and the difficulties that one can run into with the process are all so deeply tied into visual art, like you said, Robin. And so that speaks to me a lot. In this same chapter that Jill referenced, the page before the bit that Jill read today was a sort of outburst of a bunch of stuff that I was getting misty-eyed about because it feels a lot like the burnout that I have been in lately. And it really spoke to me about that. And this is, I'll read it out because I think it's really good and it doesn't spoil anything directly. Witches can draw and not come up with anything good and give up. They can have ideas but struggle to figure out which ones they want to put on paper. They can suddenly feel ashamed at their own ineptitude. They can lose confidence from nerves or stress and lose control of their drawing hand. They can be overcome with the need to draw but be unable to put pen to paper. They can have other things on their mind. They can rush and lose focus. They can be sleep deprived. Heck, they can even be hungry. And I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, I can. Sometimes you're all of those things all at once.
Totally. Man, I just took 9 weeks off of work because I was so burnt out. I was very lucky to have a short-term disability to be able to make that happen. But I was clinically burnt out. Mm-hmm. And that I feel every word of that because I wanted to spend some of that time making things, and I did. It's not like I didn't get anything done, but I did far less than I dreamed I might when I had 9 weeks to myself. And the reality is I needed to spend a good 2/3 of that time fucking around doing nothing to even be able to survive. Mm-hmm. And so the aspect of just being tired or hungry or all of those at the same time, I'm yeah, man, I feel that.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like sometimes. So there's a lot of stuff in here that I think it's beneficial to me to read right now in the zone of art that I am in. For context, I've talked about it a little bit across shows, but I had a process of doing sketches and posting them on my socials every day, and I did that for 9 years straight, without missing a day. And that's something that I have had periods in there where it's I don't, I'm doing, just rougher sketches. I'm not doing, bigger pieces. And then sometimes I've got the juice and I'm doing bigger pieces for those, or sometimes it's my daily sketch for today is the next layer of a sketch that I did the day before, stuff like that. But it wasn't until earlier this year where I had a moment where I was I think I I hate to break the streak. I really didn't want to break the streak, but I was like, I can't do it anymore. I actually need to stop for a while. I need to not do this. I need to let myself not pick up the pencil for a couple of days at least, or maybe, gets into a couple of weeks. I still am doing like some freelance stuff here and there, but like my personal sketching that I was doing every day, for me, I couldn't do it anymore. And that's really hard. And so, you got to be reminded sometimes. You know it in your head, but you gotta hear it in your heart too. That that's part of the process. You can't be on all the time. You can't. You just can't do it. So thank you to Agate for that.
Yeah, I think there's also like, for me, there's like a guilt that comes in those moments of like needing to take a break, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Or even just like, not even like resting, just like, I literally don't have the time to be doing this. And then it's 5 days later and I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything. But like, there's a part of me that's like, you didn't do anything for 5 days. What were you doing? And it's like, I was taking care of the other people in my life I need to take care of.
Yeah, man.
All right. This is our last question. This is from Full Metal Steve in Discord. For basically anyone that reads it, pretty immediately you're taken by Qifrey as a character and the mystique surrounding him. Around volume 5 or 6, Qifrey's put on ice. And which other character benefits the most from him stepping out of the spotlight for a while?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
I think my immediate instinct is Olruggio.
I was going to say the same thing.
That was my first thought too.
Yeah, I feel like it is in the moments where Olruggio is without Qifrey that we see like who he is outside of that relationship.
He also gets a lot of moments to take care of the girls in ways that we've not seen before. But weirdly, my answer is a new character. It's Belderroot. I don't know how you say that name, but he's introduced around that time, and I just think that he's at least the character that I remember the most from that sort of like arc of the book.
Yeah,
Belderroot is an interesting guy for sure.
He fascinates
like he
me.
is a person who's doing it for the love of the game.
Study him.
Like, he's found the joy. He's not working through burnout at all. He's just like, this rips.
Yeah, you see this shit. This shit's sick.
I sort of disagree with the question a little bit in the sense that like Qifrey was not the person who I was most drawn to begin with. So it wasn't as much like the other characters stepped up to fill that spot, because that was not his spot for me to begin with. But I will say, I guess, because that's that great hall sequence is, I think the moment with Sinosia, is that what her name was? The healer. I think that's the thing that sticks with me most through that great hall sequence is the healer who's like, taking care of Qifrey and has that moment of this very small moment of care for the girls. Like that moment just stuck with me as an example of just like, I don't know, just drawing out characters in the world who aren't the main characters of the book. Like they can have an important part to play too. Just because they're not witches or just because they're not who the book's about doesn't mean that they don't have real human feelings and their own priorities, which I think is something these books do really well. So I think, I think she's my answer.
I'm going to stick with Olruggio.
Hard to beat Olruggio.
It is hard to beat that man.
Good. Yeah, I love that whole section because we get introduced to like a whole world of new characters.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many great.
Is that where we meet Juji, or is that later?
That is when we meet Highheart and Juji. I was just about to bring them up.
Nice.
They're silly. Great. It's great. I love them, and I love them in contrast to Olruggio, where Olruggio is like,
I'm so tired.
God. And they're like, Mr. Olruggio, it's so great to see you.
He's like, oh, Lord, help me.
Olruggio's like, I need a nap.
Oh, we didn't even bring up Boyface Olruggio.
Yeah, Boyface Olruggio. I think when I was doing my reread and sending messages, I think I said shaved Olruggio jump scare.
It is. It's so, he showed up and I was like, that's not him, right? Like, what's going on?
That's not him.
I can't deal with the fact that he looks like a BL protagonist.
It's so funny.
He does, absolutely. You can
Shirahama draws him like a BL protagonist sometimes. I'm just going to say that.
The both of them are giving BL protagonist energy. They have both of them together have the sauce.
have the sauce. There was, oh my God, there was back in the day of, I think it was back in like 2022 or something like that. There was a Twitter account that I used to follow that was one of those like automated ones where, you know, they just have the content all lined up. And it was literally like daily Olruggio's slutty waist. It was just every day a panel of Olruggio with his waist highlighted. And it's like, yeah.
That's so funny.
We know Shirahama.
He does have the cinched waist, you know?
He does. Love that man. Drawn like a BL protagonist.
Speaking of, I'm just looking through our notes under the heading gay stuff. And there is the Olruggio and Qifrey swapping their tassels is the sweetest thing in the world. Like, I think that's revealed in one of those end sections where it's just describing different people's clothes. Am I right about that? Or does that come up somewhere else?
There is definitely I don't know if it was in 1 through 9, but there
I think it comes up later that like they say explicitly in the text.
Show each other switching the tassels. But them wearing each other's tassels is very fucking cute.
It's so
good. They're important to each other. They're really important to each other.
Yeah. Do we want to take it to further reading and head on out? We've been talking for almost 3 hours. I knew this was going to happen.
I gotta eat some food.
I know. I'm like, I have my Uber Eats order pulled up. I'm like, I gotta eat. So further reading, I went a little bit wild on here, but Shirahama did character designs for The Elder, which is one of the short films in the Star Wars Visions anthology. And she also did the illustrations for the manga adaptation of The Elder. I don't feel like there's as much depth to the world in this particular series as Witch Hat has, but another like young girl-centric wizard school manga is Little Witch Academia, which also has an anime. The Owl House, which was a Disney joint. Dana Terrace, the creator, stated specifically that Witch Hat was an inspiration for the show, which has a lot of narrative similarities about someone who is non-magical entering the world of magic and kind of dealing with that. And for the finale of the show, Shirahama posted fan art of the 2 main characters in Owl House. And Terrace was also like, oh my gosh, I love Witch Hat. It is, specifically the quote is, a magical, queer, heart-racing story of empathy and self-discovery. So I just thought that was a really nice thing to see.
That is nice.
Shirahama does a lot of promo art, concept sketches, etc. On Blue Sky and Twitter. She's sadly more active on Twitter, but she is pretty active on Blue Sky as well, and does a lot of fan art for other series that are kind of in print at the same time and have similar beats. For you, Robin, on Fashion Corner, Shirahama's other series is called Eniale and Duela, and is about an angel and devil who become friends over their love of fashion.
That sounds amazing.
So
that's really
more Shirahama fashion. This was published before Witch Hat, so like very clearly, like she knows a lot about fashion. And then, as Robin and Matt mentioned earlier, other things to check out: Kiki's Delivery Service and Blue Period. If you are interested in reading the chapters as they come out, you can support it financially by reading it on the K-Manga app, which is Kodansha's like version of the Shonen Jump app. Basically, it is where they publish their digital mangas. The first couple chapters are free, so you can read the very beginning of Witch Hat for free and see if it's something that you would like. Or go support your local library, bookstore, comic shop. They need you. I think most, it's pretty popular, so you will almost certainly be able to find it at your library.
I was able to find volumes 2 through 9 all at once at my local library for reading for this episode.
In Sequence is a member of The Worst Garbage. You can find us at theworstgarbage.online. Panelists, you guys got anything to plug?
As of the time of recording, I have a video out about the games Unfair Flips and Queue Up, which are coin flipping games. I'll let you watch the video to find out more about what that is. They're goofy and commentary, and they're fun. You can find that at youtube.com/@flowstatekrit.
You can find me on plottwists.card.co. And I believe when this episode airs, we will be coming up on Small Business Saturday, which would be a great opportunity to check out your local comic shop, I would say.
For sure. Nothing specific to plug, but you can find my other podcasts and the streams I do, and my writing at robinb.card.co.
You can find me on Blue Sky and Tumblr at HumbleGoat. You can find the art that I do, including our podcast cover art, at scoutwilkinson.myportfolio.com. And you can find Jill's and my other podcast on the TWG Podcast Network, where it's called Paws and Claws. We talk about warrior cats. In the episode that just came out today, we talk a lot about how this particular arc of warrior cats is playing a lot in the cult of religion and atonement as a punishment. And also, I think we say Bramble Ghost a lot. It's a pretty good episode.
It's true.
Those cats are doing deep stuff.
Those cats are... Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Support your local library and comic shop, and we will see you guys next time.
TWG, the worst garbage